Have you ever been in a situation where you've become extremely emotional and you just have a really hard time kind of reeling yourself in? Or have you been somewhere where something triggered you and you just couldn't stop yourself from crying or yelling or cursing and just really letting your emotions just fall out? Or perhaps something opposite happened where you wanted to feel deep emotions, you expected to feel deep emotions, and yet nothing. You've just felt numb and sort of cut off and cold. You're certainly not alone in this. So let's talk about it. My name is Keisha of New World Tarot. Thank you for joining in. So this Friday, January 10th, marks the first full moon of the year. And the full moon is, of course, the apex of the moon cycle. This is the time when the moon is in its fullest glory, really sort of reflecting the light of the sun as brightly as possible. And this reflected light is glorious, but it's also gentle, which makes it great energy to really illuminate our lives and gently burn away the shadows that keep us from our greatness. This full moon arrives in the sign of Cancer. Cancer is, of course, a very emotional sign. I myself am a Cancer, and I can attest to its very watery, tempestuous, emotional energy. And the sign of Cancer, which is symbolized by the crab, is ruled by the element of water. And people born under the influence of the sign are often seen as nurturing, intuitive, private, and kind of defensive of their privacy and defensive of the people and the things that they love and cherish the most. And another aspect of Cancer is its emotional ebb and flow. If you know a Cancerian, and yeah, that's actually what people born under the sign of Cancer are actually called, Cancerians. I learned that a little bit. But if you know a Cancerian, chances are they're as calm as a pond one moment, then as raging as a wild river the next. It's not a very equal, stable sign in general. And on top of that, to really add gasoline to the match, Cancer's ruling planet is the moon. So having the ruling planet at home in its sign certainly adds punch to the energy. So, we all might have, some emotional things happening for us, being that we have this emotional planet in an emotional sign, okay? The moon in Cancer. So the full moon in Cancer is a great time to really explore the shadow side of our emotional balance and our stability. So it could be confidently stated that we live right now in one of the best times to really live in modern society, okay? If you live in a first world country in the early 20th century, you must admit that this place and time is one of the most cleanest, most sanitized, most safest places to live and work. And there are so many laws in place, more laws than ever before, to really protect not just your physical health, but also your emotional health and your state of mind. However, everything has shadow and light, and as wonderful as a clean, predictable, and sheltering daily life can be, it's also true that these same blessings bring challenge as well. And one thing that has happened in our society is that it has become much less comfortable with emotions, with feeling, and with human connection in general. In cleaning up our society and becoming a healthier, more tame place to be, we have lost a lot of emotional balance. We've lost a lot of emotional vulnerability, emotional life. And our society has become very much focused on, achievement, advancement, work, money, commercialism, and our emotional health as a whole has certainly suffered. In fact, I would even go so far as to say that the commercialism and the heavy focus on work and lack of enjoyment has actually fueled, capitalism even more, as so many of us work so that we can buy and buy and buy some more because we're trying to feel an emotional emptiness, and we're trying to balance our emotional scales that are happening within us. And we're often trained that it's inappropriate or weak to display emotion. And, it's sort of any sort of emotional expression or outburst, especially in public, especially in a workplace, you know, this tends to be frowned upon. It tends to produce lots of shame and general discomfort all around. So let's look at it through the lens of a tarot card, all right? So today we're going to talk about the Four of Cups, okay, which is this card that I have right here. And in a moment, I'm actually going to have some of my favorite Four of Cups cards up on the screen for you to take a look at. Okay, so the Four of Cups is an interesting card to me. And here at the very bottom, the center bottom card there, we have one of the oldest and most popular Four of Cups cards, which is the original Rider-Waite-Smith Four of Cups. And we see here a young man who looks rather over it. You know, he's leaning on a tree, arms crossed, and having no interest in those three cups in front of him. In fact, he doesn't even seem interested, let alone, you know, freaking astonished when this mysterious arm kind of extends from the very clouds to really offer him a fourth cup. Like, yikes, I mean, he is not having any of it. So this card, traditionally, is often seen as a card of apathy, of boredom, depression, emotional numbness, dissatisfaction, disappointment, separateness, isolation, disillusionment, and just general emotional blahness, you know, at its general state. And you can certainly see that in this picture. There's something very miraculous happening right in front of him. I mean, there's a paranormal event and an experience that most people would give their teeth to have. And he's like, nah, I'm not really feeling this right now. Leave me alone to sulk in my misery, you know. But all jokes aside, we've all been there, right? We all can relate to this feeling, this emptiness, this feeling that nothing is exciting or wondrous or joyful at all. We just see gray. We just see monochrome blah, you know? And some of us may struggle with this feeling more than others. Now, every card has shadow and light, however. And I'm all about kind of diving deeper into these cards to kind of explore different facets of their energy and of their meaning. And in terms of light, I also see this card in terms of it being a four and a cups card. The suit of cups to me is all about our emotions, especially with the topic that we're talking about right now. And the number 4 is traditionally about balance and stability, okay? And defense as well. And emotional stability and balance are definitely things that we can use more of. And emotions, by their very nature, are highly unstable, all right? They're constantly in flux. And this is why our emotions cause so much trouble for us in society. By their very nature, emotions are foreign to a society which practically worships predictability, routine, tameness, and obedience, okay? This is very much a patriarchal society, and emotions are not something that are really encouraged or appreciated in a general sense as far as greater themes. And you know, the way I just described emotions, you know, predictability, those words I describe for society, which is routine and tameness, those don't describe emotions at all. And is it any wonder that emotional health in our society has become kind of unhinged, okay? So let's quickly go through the other 4 cards that I have here, and I try to be cute, and I try to keep it just to 4 altogether, but I just had to pick a 5th card up there because it's just, I love all of these cards. But at least there's 4 in the top row, so we have that. So in the top left-hand corner, we have the 4 of Vessels from the Alchemical Tarot. And this is quite a almost comical, very mystical looking one, where we have the elephant balanced on 4 vessels. And what this is meant to symbolize is that this elephant has kind of crawled his way out on top of these vessels, and he's just kind of gotten stuck there. And he's afraid to really go get off of them because he's kind of gotten comfortable there. And he's going to have to really move past his comfort zone and kind of face his fears of potentially falling in order to get off these vessels and to be able to move on. But in the meantime, until he's ready to, move past his comfort zone, where he's just very comfortable with his weight dispersion on these vessels, he's just going to stay there. So it's a very stuck energy, just a stuck emotional energy that we're dealing with. And I think this is one of my favorite depictions of this. To the right of that, we have the Four of Chalices from the Spirit Keeper's Tarot. Also known, this card is known as the Hollow Void. And here we have, obviously, we have our Four Cups. We also have in the bottom left-hand corner, the arm extending from the clouds, extending forward this cup. And this card is very much about, even its name, the Hollow Void. It's about really addressing that emotional void that often comes up, where we just don't feel much. We feel like there's something missing. We feel like we're not seeing colors, we're not seeing magic, we're not seeing the beauty of life anymore. And this is very much associated, in this card, I've just chosen to associate it with meditation, with connecting to source, and really recognizing that whatever is missing, that is actually, you have it within yourself, but you must address it and you must fill it yourself with the help of spirit, with the help of your higher self. And it's very much associated with meditation and with connecting to source as well. To the right of that, we have the Four of Cups from the Alice Tarot. And this one is also a lighthearted one, where we have Alice looking very bored. She was interested in, hanging out with these queens, the White Queen and the Red Queen, but they have just passed out and they are not being very exciting. And she has nothing better to do than to just kind of sit there and wait for them to wake up. And she's very bored, and obviously what started as potential to be exciting with hanging out with these two queens has turned into a bore fest. And she's just kind of not obviously so emotionally stimulated at the moment. And then to the right of that, finally, we have the Four of Water from the Herb Crafter's Tarot. And this is a beautiful depiction of this card. And we have mint as being the herb that's associated with this energy. Mint being selected because it is traditionally a very re-energizing and also refreshing herb, associated with kind of lifting the spirits and just kind of bringing out a little bit more joy, a little bit more, a little bit more happiness, a little bit putting the pep back in your step a little bit. And one thing that I love about the Herb Crafter's Tarot is if you ever do want to find like herbs that can balance energies or bring out energies for balance that you may need in life, this is a great deck to do that with. It has awesome, information as far as different herbs that represent different energies. And it also mentions in this card how mint is actually a hedgerow plant, in which it can actually be used to, very much like the number 4, to be used to create borders and protection as well. But mint often grows quickly and can actually take over too much. And in that regard, it kind of talks about how our emotions are the same way. Our emotions are very abundant in our lives, and they can very quickly run amok and kind of create a lot of trouble for us as well if we don't, learn to work with them. Okay? So this full moon in Cancer, let's discuss some natural ways to really retain emotional equilibrium and to keep in touch with our joy and our wonder and our bliss. So firstly, let's explore some good practices to naturally foster emotional health. Okay, so just naturally maintain our emotional health. And then next we'll discuss ways to prepare for those moments when our emotions sort of spill over in the middle of our day. Okay. So first, as far as ways to practice emotional maintenance, things that we can do every day, number 1 is to meditate. All right. So already, if you aren't doing this, please meditate. I probably say this every freaking time. It's a cure for everything. It's a preventative cure for everything. It also is a emergency cure for everything as well. And it's absolutely vital for emotional health. And there are many ways to meditate. The simplest way is, of course, just sitting still, breathing slowly, slowing your breathing down, releasing your thoughts, closing your eyes, and just trying to either using a mantra or, just think the term no thought silently in your mind, and just anytime a thought comes in your head, you just visualize it going by. And just the goal, of course, being just to keep your mind void and just a void of ego, void of all of this. We need to shut this off for a moment. And that's one of the most basic and easiest ways to meditate. However, there are so many other ways. There are rocking meditations where you actually move while you meditate. There are walking meditations where you're actually walking while you do this. There's chanting, etc. All sorts of things. Creative visualization, and moving on. So what's important is that you put aside at least 10 to 15 minutes, preferably in the morning before you start your day, to really quiet your conscious mind. And you have to really turn the thoughts off, okay? Very important. And you need that to really charge yourself for the day. It's just much easier to get through the emotional minefield of a stressful day when you've meditated at the beginning of it, okay? And also at the end too. It's very good to do it at the end as well. But I actually would probably say it's more important in the morning. So number 2 is exercise and natural light. All right. In our very tightly laced and uber civilized society, it's important to remember that you're also an animal. All right. You are human, but you are also very much of the earth. And cutting yourself off from the wildness of the earth is causing us our emotional health. It's really causing issues in that area. And it's vital that you move. It's vital that you exercise. It's so important to really move the blood around your body and to sweat and pant and breathe deeply. And you should exercise ideally at least three times a week. Obviously a lot of people say every day, and that's probably as best as you could for at least a few minutes, 10, 20, 15, 20 minutes or so like that. But at least 3 times a week if you can. It's also vital that you let yourself have access to natural light as well. Studies have shown time and time again that we emotionally suffer when we do not have access to natural light. Artificial light is everywhere in our society, and we spend most of our time in it. So it's important to go outside and just seek to be in the sunlight, even in the winter, especially in the winter. It's probably even more important that you do it when light is scarce. Okay. Number 3 is routine disruption. So one of the biggest issues about our emotions, and one thing that can really kind of get you blah and saying nothing but gray, is getting stuck in routine and monotony. All right. We're creatures of habit, and we love feeling safe and comfortable, and our entire society is built around that concept. Okay. Everything is meant to be safe and predictable and calm, and comfortable. And this is a strength, certainly. There's nothing wrong with that, but too much comfort, too much predictability, doing the same things and going to the same places over and over again, this can squeeze the ever-loving life out of life, okay? Life is meant to hold adventure and surprise and new faces and new experiences and, dare I say, fear and discomfort. And our society trains us to be too comfortable and too predictable and too safe all the time. And if you find yourself becoming emotionally dead over the repetition of your life, know that you can disrupt this by introducing change and unpredictability. Do something odd. Join a class. Do a meetup. Go to an interesting place that you would never have before. Date a different person you never would have before. Go to a different type of restaurant. Try a different sexual position. Go shopping at a different clothing store. Learn about something bizarre that interests you. Learn about insects or something like that. If you ever had a question, if a question comes to your mind about something, check it out. See where it takes you. Look it up on Wikipedia and whatnot. And just slow down and really feel the world around you as well, okay? Really feel the textures of stones, of fabric, of wood, the fur of an animal, a person's skin and hair. Really slow down and taste the foods that you love. Taste the spices, okay? And travel. Travel as much as you possibly can. Travel is, of course, the ultimate disruption of routine whenever you are going to a different place. So do that as often as you can. That completely disrupts the sleepwalking sort of Four of Cups mentality that we often can get into. All right, number 4 is nutritional balance, okay? And drinking lots of water. Nutrition has so much to do with emotional balance and stability. You are meant to eat a certain way as a child of the earth. Poor diets don't just put weight on you. They can also affect you emotionally. Studies have shown that again and again. And what you should think about is just, clean and clear. Eat cleaner and clearer to have cleaner and clearer emotions, okay? And don't be afraid of herbal health. I even mentioned the Herb Crafter's Tarot is an awesome tarot deck as far as information on different plants and herbs are associated with any possible energetic imbalance you could possibly have, like emotional imbalances. For example, St. John's wort is a very popular one that is known to be a emotional lifter of emotions. Mint, as we just said. Ginseng is another one that is commonly used for that. Chamomile, lavender, and experiment with what works for you. And it doesn't have to even be a traditional one. For example, orge. I don't know what that if that is traditionally associated with lifting the spirits, but that is one that does for me. I love the scent that kind of lifts me up. The taste of it kind of, to me, is associated with sun energy, with brightness. Okay. So now we talk about kind of ways to just, keep our emotional stability from day to day. What are some ways where we can actually, in the throes where we're feeling very emotional, what are some things that we can do to kind of get us out of that? Our emotional emergency kit, if you will. So one way is to wear and keep mallet beads. So these, like for example, I have some mallet beads here at the edge of my desk. These are halite actually, and these are great to wear on your person or drape across your desk, or hold and grasp, wear around your neck, around your wrist as a bracelet. Often just the presence of them on your body or in your space can be enough to really ground you and just keep away emotional toxicity throughout the day. I feel it really helps. The stones, even just the visual reminder of it, are something that help me to keep it together when I feel things kind of getting a little bit heavy sometimes, and especially if I know it's going to be a rough day. And of course, mallet beads come in different stones. Halite is a very common energy, very calming energy, very much that I can use. But they can come in basically any stone that is important to you that you associate with emotional grounding. And I encourage you to, spend some time on YouTube, look up Wikipedia, and notice and see what stones can work for you. And also, holding a stone, stones that fit in the palm of your hand, something that can be on the desk, can also be used. Two that I like are smoky quartz and green calcite. I have a green calcite stone here. And green calcite, I know, is often associated with absorbing negative energy, such as anger, stress, anxiety, that sort of a thing. It's just, I really like running the texture of it, just the way it feels, running my hands over it. And sometimes just cupping it and just letting it absorb my stress, negativity, bile, all that stuff can sometimes take the edge off. I also have a little handheld smoky quartz as well. Same thing, that just fits in the palm of my hand. And just holding on to that, almost like a stress ball. And just thinking about taking your emotional upset and funneling it into that stone can work wonders. Also, aromatherapy is a great thing as well. Lavender and vanilla in particular are, again, very common fragrances that will stimulate your brain and might kind of keep you calm or bring you down if you feel like you're starting to get emotionally off kilter. And lastly, just deep breathing. Never underestimate the power of deep breathing. So sometimes you just have to just take a minute, isolate yourself, remove yourself from the stimulus, and just think about slowing your breathing. Because usually what happens when you get emotionally upset is you start to actually take faster, shallower breaths. So the way to counter that in your body is to slow the breath down and deepen the breathing. Like, for example, you can think about breathing in 2 slow seconds in and 4 seconds out. And just doing that over and over, eyes closed, maybe even holding your stone or your mala, and just kind of think about getting calm. You know, and finally, these are all natural abilities, but don't underestimate the need perhaps to, need to talk to someone, whether it's through counseling, whether it's through spending time with a friend or a trusting family member, or, seeking out therapy, hypnotherapy. Definitely highly recommend those things to help with emotional imbalances as well. All right, so let's very quickly, before I go, we're going to do a quick little 4-card spread on what we can do to regain emotional stability. So we're going to use the Alchemical Tarot today. And what we're going to do is a little bridge draw, and we're going to choose this energy that we're trying to obtain as represented by the 4 of Vessels, crossed by the King of Vessels. Okay? And here we have in this deck, the King of Vessels is represented by a whale who's actually filling his own vessel with the water from his own blowhole, which is very interesting. But what this is meant to represent is complete emotional mastery, complete emotional control. Someone who at any time can turn on his own emotional fountain and his own emotional strength. Okay? So we are going to pick the full card that represents us, okay? Because we're always learning, we're always exploring and just learning more about our world, learning more about ourselves, and learning how to really experience life and see what there is to see and master and learn, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to pick 2 cards and asking how can we obtain that level of emotional mastery, okay, as represented by the King of Vessels, okay? So you want to reclaim emotional stability, all right, emotional balance, emotional beauty, emotional defense, even against a world that may not be so, that may be a little bit hostile sometimes towards emotional balance. But how can we, as perpetual learners and explorers, learn to obtain emotional mastery, control, and self-sufficiency? Okay. All right, so we have card number 1 is Justice. It's one of my favorite cards in the deck. And we also have the 6 of Cups. All right, so in a moment, I'm going to have these cards up on the screen for you. Okay, so in asking how we as explorers, adventurers and students can really learn to obtain emotional mastery and control and excellence, we have the Justice card and the 6 of Vessels. So in both of these cards, what's interesting is I see a level of balance, okay? To me, the 6, all of the 6s in a way, and especially the 6 of Cups, are often about, balance and give and take, and Justice is also very much about balance. Now, with the Justice card, what I see here is a need to always be, when we feel like we're starting to get a little bit too emotional about things, when we feel like we're just kind of getting a little bit, losing things a little bit, we're kind of losing control. It's important to really kind of step back and think about the truth of the situation. When we get emotional, often what is happening is we're not seeing the truth of things. What we're starting to do is lose ourselves to fear, to anger, which usually always comes back to fear in some way. And what we need to do is really take a moment and really actually rationalize if our reaction is indeed in balance with what is happening. And more times than not, our emotional reaction is actually not in balance with what is happening. Yes, we can have a right to be upset per se, but usually, if you are someone who considers, yourself kind of struggling with emotional outbursts, with emotional instability, it is not matching. And this card is very much about keeping a straight head and keeping calm head on the rapids. And it's just always about kind of measuring, is this really appropriate for what's happening, and asking yourself that. With the Six of Vessels, I actually associate this card with emotional support, and I also associate it with beauty and with compassion and with love. And this could include self-love as well. And the Six of Vessels, the Six of Cups, if we go to the original Rider-Waite-Smith, Six of Cups, the Hermetic title for that card is the Lord of Pleasure. And to me, that is one thing that is important for us to seek out and for us to remember to keep emotional balance, especially in our society now, where we've become very much focused on, again, accomplishment. Our self-worth and our class system is basically, our worth to society is often measured by how much money we make, how big our houses are. And most of that stuff is often, by most people, gotten through means that don't bring joy. Joy takes a sideline, joy and pleasure, to work in order to be what society wants them to be. And the remedy for that is to remember to seek out pleasure. Remember to seek out the beauty in the world. And also, just to be compassionate to yourself. Make sure you give yourself what you need. Make sure you give yourself water, emotionally and energetically speaking. And be kind to yourself. And remember to love yourself always. Okay? All right, well, that is it for today. I want to thank you so much for joining me today for our full moon in Cancer vlog, and we will see you next week. And in the meantime, just be blessed and be happy, be safe, and just, remember to love yourself and take care of yourself and have fun and seek out pleasure, more pleasure in life. All right, we will see you next time. Take care and thank you.